Today we're here with the author of What Women Need, Ortenzia Borre. And I really appreciate you coming all the way from Australia for the interview. And I think it's an awesome book. So I was reading the book yesterday and I thought it was so cool to be able to talk to you because we have a company that deals with dating advice for men. And what women need is exactly the topic that our guys want to hear about.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much, Nick.
So one of the things that I thought was really interesting, we were talking about this earlier about your book, was that the slogan that really captivated me was the slogan that common sense is not common anymore.
Absolutely. Look, you know, we live in the 21st century and there's so much information out there. We are saturated. And I just believe like we've lost the essence of common sense, taking it back to basics in all areas of life, really.
I think that I'd like to also get your background because you come from an interesting background because most of the people who follow my channel have seen me talk a lot about journalism from a very different standpoint. And you came from the journalism world and then you entered the dating world. Whereas like in our history, our company has been involved with journalism in a very different way. You know? So I was really interested in how your career as a journalist has kind of morphed into this new career as an educator and how that process changed.
Well, I was very fortunate enough that I have been modelling for a very long time, over a decade, and that gave me the opportunity to also study journalism, which is something I always wanted to do. So I became a journalist while at the same time being asked to guest speak as a model mentor and personal development mentor for Australia's leading finishing school. And that gave me an idea and I thought, I'm able to actually join the two together, being a journalist and being a mentor, bringing those forces together along with my experience over the years. And that's how it came about. So I'm sharing my knowledge now in my book and the seminars.
Now, one of the things that I thought was also cool was that my wife's business partner is your future husband.
Correct.
And, you're now in this really interesting world. So you went from being in the modeling world to working at Fox News to becoming a mentor at a finishing school to becoming a published author. And now you're also working on becoming an entrepreneur and building an e-commerce company.
Correct. Absolutely. We're going down your path.
Yeah. So the inspiration from what I've heard is that you're building a clothing line, and I wanted to hear about what distinguishes what you're doing and why you're willing to spend tons of money, invest in traveling all the way to India and growing this business from Australia to be an international company from the beginning.
Look, I believe that it's all connected anyway, in a way. So my passion is to be able to help others. The bottom line is to educate and teach what I know, my knowledge. I feel very fortunate to have the experiences that I have, to have the education that I have, and to be able to correlate and put it all together and share it with the world. So I'm using my background in modelling and in fashion to create an organic clothing range. At the same time, I'm using my experience and everything that I've gained in my research to help women. So it all ties in from everything that I've done over the decades, really.
Now, you were talking earlier about how the parallels from what you were talking about have been so much feedback that inspired you to work on a new future with what men need as well.
Yes, correct.
Now, how are the parallels of your book that talk about everything from like etiquette, style, fashion, grooming, how you carry yourself, confidence, how do you think those differences are apparent and the similarities between what women need and what men need?
The only differences is our gender. But at the end of the day, taking it back down to its original core is really, we all want the same thing. We all want to be loved. We all want to be respected. We all want to feel needed and feel relevant. And so the qualities in which a man needs to portray and a woman needs to portray and to one another are very similar. Apart from our genders and our genetic makeup as to hormones and other things like that, the core qualities, we want to share them. And in my opinion, they're quite similar. We all need to know how to use a knife and fork and have manners and etiquette at a dining table. We all need to know how to communicate effectively. We all need to know how to be kind to one another, and we all need to know how to appreciate and, you know, show gratitude as well. And in my opinion, that's what makes a successful relationship, whether it be a professional or a personal relationship.
Now, your future also involves you building a training program and a course.
Correct.
Where you're taking specific clients and training them. I'm interested in hearing what it is that your coaching client, your ideal avatar of a client, looks like, and what you want him or her to accomplish through your training program.
My ideal client is anyone and everyone, anyone that is willing to learn and to improve themselves. So my message is inspirational. It's also hopeful in a way that we all have our own little inconsistencies that we would like to improve. And so my book and my seminars will enable people to take what they need from it and learn. So it's also as simple as dressing for your body type is one of the things that we address. So, you know, making sure that you look good in what you're wearing. At the same time, certain colours suit certain skin tones. And so I educate about that. And then the simple things like corporate culture, how to behave, even on social media. One of the things I always like to say is if you're not going to be proud to have your grandmother or your children see something, either a photograph or a post across any social media, don't post it. So really that can apply to a teenager, and it also can apply to somebody well into middle age. But at the same time, it's about confidence, it's about being able to be comfortable in your own skin, ultimately. And so if you can take one or two little bits of information here or there, and that can make you feel better on the inside, then my job is done.
One of the things I found fascinating, and I've heard this before, is that you were meeting with publishers and people of influence that were telling you that your book had such intricate and awesome ideas about how people should behave, yet they were inspiring you to dumb down the material so that the mainstream can get the message across and absorb it. And then it'll allow you to build more courses in the future and then build off trainings from that. I guess one of the things I was interested about is what you have are various topics. For example, let's say I was talking about mindsets for success. So you'll talk about in your book about how there's this experience where people will really engage with you in a much better way when you have this positive attitude.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm interested to hear, first of all, what you describe are that I guess, ambiance that you need to project to other people to have that positive attitude, and what it is that you think you had to remove in order to make it so that the mainstream would accept your message.
Look, you know, when writing my book, I had so much information, and it being my first book, I was very fortunate to have a lot of people that were in the industry give me their feedback. So with a lot of help, I was able to work it into the one solid project that it is now. But in terms of actually the presentation and the smile and how to be able to actually effectively communicate with someone on a really happy note, I always like to say that you have to approach a situation and approach anyone smiling. At the same time, you want to approach them in a really friendly manner and a comfortable manner. I always like to say that good manners is how you make the other person feel. If they feel comfortable around you, if they feel relaxed and happy, that's good manners. And something that I always like to say as well is you should always just lift the corners of your mouth and smile. Even when you're on the phone to somebody, and we spend so much time on our phones these days, people know that you're smiling over the phone because even though they can't see you, they know because the tone and the pitch in your voice changes. So that's why I always say, if you're talking to someone, just smile. Even lift the corners of your mouth, because what you create, the communication, is straight away it's easy, it's relaxed, and they can tell that you're happy. It becomes a really smooth process.
That's an interesting tip. I could actually see that for pitch and voice. I'll remember that one. In terms of what you think are, say, the more advanced things about your training, things that like would be individualized to a particular person, as opposed to, say, things that you may have learned from your parents. What are things that you think most people may have learned and have forgotten, the most popular things that most people have forgotten?
The most popular, and I see it all the time, is deportment. So deportment is the position of your body. I could sit in this chair slouched, I could have my head down, my shoulders rounded, and I could also just be looking at the floor as we're speaking. But instead, I'm sitting up with straight back, I'm giving you full eye contact, and that's communicating a healthy relationship. It's also communicating confidence and respect. So I find that the biggest difference that people make when they come to me is their deportment, which is the position of their body. You know, their shoulders back, eye contact, chin up, and that just gives their whole aura a makeover. So I would say that's a very strong point that I do like to address. And at the same time, another one is your corporate culture, how to behave in a more professional setting. And it could be as simple as when you're emailing a colleague and you're emailing, there's about 4 to 5 people in on one email, and you CC everybody in on your whole conversation, even though that person should have left that conversation 20 emails ago. It's basic corporate etiquette. So they're the more detailed scenarios that I believe every single person comes across that can take note from.
We did a training seminar for our company called Crucial Conversations, where the biggest problem that we had was that conversations that required, I would say, high emotions, disagreeing opinions, and big stakes were getting done by email. And long threads, even though it's in writing, you could specify your point. The point was actually being misinterpreted, even though it was in writing, just because you couldn't relay that presence for your communication from what people see, what they hear, what the senses. And I agree, having the right demeanor in business communication changes almost everything. It creates trust.
Oh, absolutely. And look, there's no tone in an email. There's no tone in communicating via a digital device. Unfortunately, you can use as many exclamation marks as you want and as many emojis, but at the end of the day, you're still not going to be able to communicate that message as effectively as you would face to face. And so I would definitely recommend leaving the most serious of conversations to a front face to face.
Now, your future husband and my good friend Steve Moss, he told me that he wanted an answer to a question that he asked me. And he asked me the question, do you think that women really know what they want? And he wanted it from my standpoint, probably to get me in trouble. But I guess I would ask you that same question.
Do women really know what they want? I believe that women really deep down know what they want, but I do believe that unfortunately a lot of women fear that they're unable to achieve what they want. There's something holding them back, be it insecurity, be it just anything that they believe that they just can't achieve something. Deep down, I think it's their intuition, and they do know what they want. They just feel that sometimes it may be out of reach. And so that's where I'm hoping that my book and my seminars will just inspire them to understand that if they really listen to themselves and they respect themselves and they follow what they want, then they may be able to be a little bit closer to exactly living the life that they would like to live.
That's a good point. I do think that it would be really cool that if we lived in a world where everyone was totally comfortable with their following their passions and doing what they want, regardless of their successes and failures. Because I think that most people will succumb to fear. and most of it is fear of rejection and loss. Now, you mentioned that it's super important to have that inner confidence and belief. How do you maintain that when you're faced with negative states of action, negative results, things that affect you, that kind of hit you hard?
It all comes down to your personal belief in your faith, and I speak about this in my book. Now, your faith can be anything. It can be your faith in your religion, it can be faith in a higher power, or faith in the universe. Whatever that means to you, you need to hold on to that and embrace it and follow that. And I believe the way to get through the trials of life and the challenges is to really, really remain true to your core values and your core beliefs. If you stay on that track of what's important to you as an individual, of what you know deep down is right for you in your life, regardless of the setbacks, you will end up on exactly the path that you need to be. Anything that's thrown at you, any curveballs, you need to take that as a learning experience, as part of the journey. And I believe that if you have that faith, that it is a journey and it's a learning experience, and that eventually you will end up exactly where you need to be. If that's what is truly in your heart, then it will happen.
Cool. One last question. You said that you like seeing animals happier than you like seeing humans. I'd like to see you elaborate on that.
Oh, I'm a huge animal lover. I love animals. And as we were discussing, I feel that animals have an innocence and a vulnerability, and they're so loyal. Their loyalty is endlessness. And so I love to see humans acting well towards animals, and at the same time I feel like us humans are fortunate to be able to be intelligent enough to make certain decisions and not even hurt animals or do badly in the world. We do have that ability. And so animals, though, they're not, while they are probably just as intelligent as humans, it's on a different level, of course. And so therefore, I love to see animals happy. Does that answer your question?
Sure. Awesome. Thanks so much. It's been a great interview.
Thanks so much, Nick. Thank you.
Cool. Cheers.
Yay! Hi, I'm Ortenzia Borre. Thanks for joining me. Please check out my new book, What Women Need, and follow me at ortenzia.com. My Instagram, Ortenzia Borre.